Hi, my name is Jason Monteleone, and I gave a presentation at the March 21st Secondary Redistricting meeting. The following is additional information that I would like to share with the Board and the Redistricting Committee related to the Secondary Redistricting proposal. First, I want to revisit the reasons I gave at the March 21st meeting to delay a secondary redistricting. First, there are numerous demographic trends that need to occur to require a secondary redistricting. Second, the Williamsburg-Norwood utilization impact is minimal. It's less than 5% and wouldn't solve the proposed utilization issue if it were to materialize. And three, a decision can be made in 3 to 4 years to redistrict the secondary schools if the demographic assumptions actually hold true. A decision now would be premature. An overview of the key data sources I used in putting together this presentation. First, I used the redistricting webinar put out there by the Downingtown School Board. And second, I used data from the Pennsylvania Department of Educational website. And the data that I used is all the enrollment data since 2005 and 6. My overall agenda in this presentation is first to review the secondary enrollment assumptions. Second, the Williamsburg-Norwood House utilization impact. And third, a quick wrap-up. First, the secondary school student growth assumptions. This is a slide that I presented at March 21st meeting. Effectively, it shows the number of students that we have today in our secondary schools and the number of students that are built into the McKissick model in 2023. So we're showing a growth of 685 students from 2013 to 2023, from 3,742 to 4,427. I decided to take a look at our secondary public school enrollment trend. We're actually at the same level we were in 2007 and 2008. I expected to see a chart of straight growth from 2005 and 6 to present day, but that actually wasn't the case. Since 2005, we've seen 4 years of increases and 3 years of declining student enrollment. And the compounded annual growth rate since 2005 and 6 has been roughly 0.5%. Effectively, if we're going to grow from 3,742 students today to 4,427 students in 2023, we need to have a compounded annual growth rate of 1.7%. So the question I have is forecasting a growth rate to triple over the next 10 years from where it's been the last 6 or 7 years really realistic, even if there's housing growth built into the assumptions. Second, I took a look at our kindergarten through 3rd grade enrollment trends. And the reason this is important because our current kindergarten through 3rd grade students are going to drive our 2020 plus secondary school population. As you can see, our kindergarten through 3rd grade students has actually been in decline since 2008 and 29. So we are seeing less students enroll in our schools at the lower grade levels, which seems to make sense because everyone's forecasting lower birth rates. So this trend holds water and is showing less students enrolling at the lower levels. And in fact, our population is down 6% since 2008 and 2009. Again, important because the number of students entering our school district is really going to drive our secondary school students in the future. Now, there's a lot of numbers on this chart, but effectively, this shows the enrollment increase by grade. So every grade shows growth over time with new people moving to the area and things of that nature. So this top box here shows the number of students we have in each grade by year from 2004 and 5 to 2012 and 2013. What I've shaded yellow is you can see the increase in students from year to year. So the 2004-2005 kindergarten has 733 students. In 1st grade, they actually have 851. That increase is from a lot of students being in private kindergarten. Our 1st grade then grows to 857 students in 2nd grade, and then to 872 in 3rd grade, and so on and so on. The reason I have these shaded yellow is I show the example here below the number of student increase. I mentioned earlier that we went from 733 to 851. That's the 118 student increase. We went from 851 to 857. That's the 6 student increase, etc., etc. And below here, shaded in yellow, is the average number of students that we increase year over year since 2005 and 6. So for example, from kindergarten to 1st grade, on average, we increase 118 students. From 1st grade to 2nd grade, we increase 21 students, etc., etc., etc. What I found very interesting is that we do not add many students at all once they get into high school. We actually, in junior and senior years, we actually decline. Now, I know we discussed that the McKissick forecast assumes that we have a lot of growth in our secondary schools with families moving to the area, but we have not seen that trend since 2005 and 6. The only assumption that I can come up with here is that families don't move while their kids are in high school, so we don't add a lot of students. And the decline in students is probably related to a certain percentage of high school dropouts of individuals going straight to work. And this here just shows the average enrollment accumulated by grade. So, for example, a class that starts in kindergarten, since 2005 and 6, we've added 235 students on average as they progress through the school system. And you can see from grade 1, we add 117 students, etc., etc., etc. I use this information to do a forecast of our current kindergarten through 3rd grade class to project out what the numbers would be in secondary school. So here's that calculation. We know today that we have 3,356 students. That's a given and that's a fact. On the previous slides, I came up with the history which showed that on average we would add roughly 584 additional students through growth. That would give a projected number of students in 2021-2022 of 3,940. So that year is a good proxy for 2022-2023. We should not see a material increase in 1 year. The proposed rebalancing plan is showing that we would have 4,427 students. That would be a student increase of 1,071. Again, easy math to calculate. 4,427 students are what are needed. We know today we have 3,356 students. So 4,427 minus 3,356, that leaves with 1,071 students that we would need to grow by to hit the forecast model. The question I have really is that level of growth really realistic? Here's an interesting chart. This shows the number of students that we actually have in our private and public schools from kindergarten through 12th grade. As you can see, the level that we were at in 2011 and 12 is roughly the same as we had in 2005 and 6. And we peaked in 2008 and 9 with 13,765 students. So we have not seen a dramatic increase in the number of students, when in fact what I'll show, we've actually seen a shift in the number of students in private school moving to public school. We've seen a shift of roughly 3% of students in private school moving to public school. As you can see, in 2005-6, private school made up 16% of the entire population. In 2011 and 12, private schools made up 13%. So the increase in students in our public schools isn't necessarily related to a dramatic growth in home growth and families moving to the area. It's actually a major contributor has been the number of students moving from private schools to public schools. The total number of students hasn't changed dramatically, and in fact in 2011 and 12 it was down almost 200 students from 2008 and 2009. Here are charts that show the public school enrollment and the private school enrollment. As you can see, our public school enrollment has increased as mentioned, and private school enrollment's down dramatically. And just so we're aware, the two private schools here are the predominant ones, Bishop Shanahan and St. Joseph's Elementary School. Since 2005 and 6, greater than 400 students have shifted from private schools to public schools. A reversal of this shift in the future would add significant capacity to our public schools. That's an important point. So if the economy recovers and more parents begin to opt for private school education, then we'll see additional students funnel into their excess capacity, and we'll have a decline in enrollment in our public schools. Again, that demographic trend would have to play out, but it is a realistic trend that could occur. Here are the private school enrollment trends split by Shanahan and St. Joseph's. You can see Shanahan's down 237 students from its peak, and St. Joseph's is down 181 students. So the question I have, has McKissick taken into consideration an uptick in private education demand as the economy improves? This is a very important demographic trend and one that will greatly impact our utilization in future years. A quick summary of the section. The McKissick model estimates the number of secondary school students will increase by 685 in 2023. Since 2005, the secondary school compounded annual growth rate has been roughly 0.5%. 1.7% or triple of the 0.5% is needed to achieve the forecasted growth. The current kindergarten through grade 3 population has declined the past 4 years. Adding the recent average student growth results the current kindergarten through grade 3 population would result in a school forecast of 3,940 students versus the greater than 4,400 that's currently in the McKissick forecast. And finally, an increase in private education demand would create additional public school capacity. Next, I want to do a quick review of the Williamsburg-Norwood utilization impact. Again, this is a slide that I presented at the March 21st meeting. It essentially shows the McKissick model shows that the Downingtown East utilization percent will be 95% in 2023. The rebalance plan would drop that down to right below 86%, and that would be a 9% utilization impact. So the current plan assumes that our Williamsburg-Norwood rebalancing would move 186 students, or 9% utilization impact. What I found interesting was that the East Ward population is actually in decline. So East Ward has actually declined 72 students since its peak of 636 in 2009 and 10, and have declined 3 straight years. I find it interesting that we're rebalancing a school that's been in decline when in fact East Ward is actually helping the utilization impact at East with its own natural attrition. Now here's an updated East Ward waterfall that I showed at the March 21st presentation as well. In effect, there's really not much changed. I just updated for the actual students that I found at the Department of Public Education's website. And in effect, I still get the same result, that the overall utilization impact is less than 10% and less than 5%. So 100 students would be redistricted, and that would not solve the proposed utilization issue that's presented in the McKissick plan of needing about 10% utilization impact. Finally, a quick section summary. The McKissick's model requires a secondary balancing plan that delivers a 10% utilization impact to achieve 85% utilization at Downingtown East. The rebalancing of Williamsburg-Norwood House does not deliver the required 10% utilization impact. The true impact is actually less than 5%. East Ward's population has been in decline for several years, and that's resulting that less than 100 students would actually be moved. McKissick's model ends up with both Downingtown East and West with utilizations greater than the target of 85%. And additionally, any increased demand for STEM education is not satisfied with the current plan. A quick wrap-up. I like to summarize my reasons as to why we shouldn't approve the current secondary redistricting plan at this time. First, I believe we need to see which demographic trends are realized and their impact on overall utilization, namely the expected decrease in birth rates, significant increase or decrease in new home building, increase or decrease in demand for private education, and increase or decrease in elementary public school enrollment. Additionally, redistricting Williamsburg-Norwood House does not solve the utilization issue communicated in the webinar. A solution with a 10% utilization impact is required if the growth rates in the model are correct. Additionally, a longer-term utilization issue would still exist because both in the model, Downingtown East and West both have utilization rates greater than 85%. Finally, thank you to the school board and the redistricting committee for accepting and listening to public feedback, for all your time and effort on this project and all other projects big and small, and for giving up your personal time to improve the Downingtown School District for our children. Thank you.